Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the shop. It is Saturday morning and it's about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Just got out to the shop after taking care of a few things in the morning around the house. And, just out here today, just getting caught up on a few things since I have the whole day today and tomorrow. And also just to kind of prepare for the week coming up. So I don't have, like a structured plan for this video or any particular theme or anything that I want to show, but if you're interested in just coming along and seeing what it's like, what I do out here, what we work on, and how we do it, stick around. Okay, so a few of the bigger things I have going on this morning are regarding maintenance. I've got the Monport 150 watt laser that I'm going to go ahead and clean the mirrors because we have a lot of cutting to do on that today. And then also over on the Bolt Pro 32, I had a slight issue with it earlier in the week last week, working with Thunder Support, who's awesome, got me taken care of, and I'll show you what's going on with that, but we got a part to replace on it real quick. And we have got some other projects to work on too. One of them being on the CNC over here. Got a 3D badge going on for a police department. And so I'm doing some samples with that and kind of working out the tool pathing before I go on to the actual job. Yeah, so, let's go ahead and start taking care of the maintenance items first, and we'll go from there. So over here on this side of the shop, I've got the big Monport EFFI16s 150 watt CO2 laser. This thing is like 63 inches by 41 cut area, and it's almost about 4 feet by 8 feet total shop space here. So pretty large machine. This thing is just really a cutting powerhouse, and I use this to cut all of my thicker materials, especially 3/8 Baltic Birch, which I have some kind of stacked up there. We're going to be loading some of those in later. But first, before I start cutting, we're going to go ahead and have to clean the optics here. So we'll go ahead and get started doing that. I'm not going to show all the details of it, but I'll show a little B-roll of me doing it here. But one thing I do like to do is I like to kind of get my stuff set up here before I get going. I've moved the gantry all the way forward so I can reach it. I've got some paper towel, microfiber, some different hex wrenches, screwdriver. This is just a little pair of pliers to take the mirror retaining ring off, and of course that little white bottle is a little bit of lens cleaner here. So the lens looks pretty good. Try to keep this, as clean as possible. Every day I'm cleaning this lens, and it really depends on how much I'm cutting, but especially when I have a big cut day like this, really important to make sure this is clean, or your results will they will not work out. You'll be scratching your head wondering why it's taken 2 or 3 passes to get something that normally takes 1 pass. And assuming your optics alignment and everything is good, this is probably the #1 reason that I see people aren't cutting correctly, is just because their lens or other parts of the optics are really dirty. So super important, and once you get it down, really only takes just a few minutes. And of course, don't forget your mirrors. This is mirror number 3, of course, at the laser head. I just spritzed on a little lens cleaner onto the microfiber here. You can see how dirty that was. This is, really the most dirty lens on mainly any laser, just because it's so close to the laser head and exposed to smoke here, so all that residue gets inside. So I just kind of hit it a couple times with the spritz. And then now I'm just wiping it clean with the dry part of the microfiber until it comes out clean. And mirror number 2 here on the left side of the machine, I do the same thing, but I'm just coming in through the side panel here. Probably the second dirtiest mirror. On this style of laser, the mirrors exposed. But if you do this just really I do this every day, just a quick cleaning, and it really helps to make sure none of this stuff gets built up. And really that's about it. I mean, that's just a quick maintenance program that I have on this and all my other CO2 lasers. Pretty much all the same. I mean, doing it daily. Again, make sure that it's not building up too much, so you could just do a quick wipe down like that. The Thunders, it's even easier to clean the lens or the lenses on those. And I would say just my advice is just have some sort of program, okay? Like, you don't have to fully disassemble this thing every time to clean it. That's good every once in a while. For example, I didn't clean mirror number 1 or any of the tube area on the back of this machine because I don't want to pull it out right now. But I just did that like 2 days ago. So I do that about like every 3 or 4, maybe 5 days, because that area on this laser and the bolts as well too is much more protected. You don't get a lot of soot and dust and different buildup, you know, vapors and stuff going back there as much as the front 2 mirrors. So just have a plan, have a kind of a maintenance plan, and follow it, and you're going to really see the results of that in cut quality, cleanliness, and just ease of use of the entire machine. And hey, you know, I'm working on a whole beginner series on just CO2 lasers in general. I kind of started it with one video last week about light burn, doing material test cards. I have a bunch of other videos planned for that, mostly dealing with light burn. But if anyone wants to see like a maintenance video, like maybe like a 5-6 minute, just kind of boom, 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 you know, quick style maintenance video on basic general CO2s, CO2 lasers, you know, let me know. Let me know down in the comments if that's something that you're interested in checking out. I'm trying to think about, like, you know, what are some of these beginner skills that I had to learn either from people teaching me or from YouTube or just reading on my own. And, you know, I'm trying to build a catalog of those skills and then make videos about them to help people that are new. All right, so let's get over to the Bolt Pro here in the front corner of the shop, and let me show you what happened to that one. So as I open up the machine here, I have it turned off so I can move the gantry, but basically this X-axis belt was frayed, and as this laser was scanning back and forth, it was making a really loud noise. So we thought, okay, for some reason the X-axis belt tore, so that's what's causing the noise. Ordered a new belt, got that put on really easily, and tightened it back up, tensioned it properly, and same thing. It was making a terrible screeching noise as it was scanning back and forth. And we were kind of like, what is going on? Like, we just changed the belt. So the belt was being frayed from some other reason. Something else was going on. So as I was looking into it, I found this bushing, this brass bushing that is connected to the belt, or the belt rides on this, and this is held on with a screw, and it was moving like this. It was moving back and forth, and I'll show you as we open up the side panel of the laser. But this brass bushing has some bearings in it, and you can see right here the remnants of the bearing that was inside of this brass bushing. So that bearing was toast. This is the shaft that it rides on, kind of like this, and it was just moving left and right, bunch of movement, causing a terrible noise, and it caused my belt to fail. So worked with Thunder support on this one, and of course they were awesome like they always are. A couple days later, got this brand new part in the mail, warranted, free of charge, nothing that I had to pay out of pocket. Just took a couple days to get here, so now let's put it back together. So a little hard to see here, but it got the light on. Maybe we can take a look here. This is where the brass bushing goes, or the guide, and they sent me this whole new bracket with the tensioners and everything. So I'm going to take that off, and basically this piece is going to go like this, and then the belt is going to wrap around it and go back over to the laser head. So I'm going to go ahead and get this taken apart, put back on. It's just a couple of screws here and here, and these are the tensioners for the belt, but this little bracket is all one piece, so I just got to replace this as a unit. So it should be pretty easy. All right, just got to tighten up the last screw here. Nothing too difficult, just a little tight quarters in here, but nothing too crazy. All right, so now that that's tight, this belt is now going to wrap around and go back into the cabinet of the laser, kind of like this. There we go. I didn't have it fed right. I'm just going to feed this through, And now I can see it on the inside of the cabinet and pull it. And basically this is going to get clamped here, and I'm going to tension it, and we'll be back in business. And now that I've got this belt connected back to the laser head, I'm just kind of pulling on it a little bit just to get some tension on it, but we're going to finish tensioning it back over in the side panel. I'm just making sure that this block is tight here. And the hardest part about this whole thing is just kind of dealing with the little parts. These screws are kind of small, but overall, this laser is very easy to work on. So to tension this belt, what you have to do is loosen these. Let me focus this here. You want to loosen these two 7mm lock nuts here. Let's see if I can point to it a little bit better. So there's one on the right, one on the left. And I found it's pretty much easiest just to loosen these with a pair of needle nose. And then loosen them with my finger here. I found the 7mm wrench can be kind of hard to get in there, but I've made it work sometimes, but that's how I do it now. Now you're going to take a number 2 metric hex, and we're going to tighten this down, and that's pulling the entire belt backwards. So it's pulling this back this direction. And we just want to make sure this is taut, but we want to make sure this is even too. Right now the right is more than the left, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that here. But the one thing I forgot to mention is that when I was tightening these posts here, you want to make sure that these screws here are loose as well, because if they're not, then this whole unit isn't going to shift forward and backwards. So I did that, I just didn't tell you about it. So let's go ahead and tighten these back up. And then we'll tighten our lock nuts just to hold everything in place. So back on the inside of the machine, just checking this for tension. And you know, you don't want this too tight, but I like to get like one finger underneath it like that, and that seems to work for me. And there we have it, all put back together and tightened down. Let's turn it on and make sure everything works. So everything looks pretty good. I made a little test file here. We'll just go ahead and press start on the controller and get that running. Everything sounds good. Looks good. Okay, looks pretty good. Let's move the laser head out of the way. Just a light engraving. I just wanted to make sure that the circles were circles, and that looks good to me. Didn't hear any strange noise. Looks like we got this all fixed up. What do you think?
Good. It's good. It is good.
Okay, so that is it for maintenance today. We got a couple things taken care of. 2 machines, or 1 machine back up and running, the Bolt behind us, the Bolt Pro, and the Monport 150 watt is ready to do some major cutting. So I'm going to put the camera down and load up some 5x5 sheets of 3/8 Baltic Birch into that and get my box file set up and running. I've got a big order of some wine crates that I'm making, so I want to get all the parts cut out for that. And then after that, when we get that running, we'll go over to the CNC and I'll show you what I got going on over there. So one problem that you do run into when you're running full sheets on any laser is that they can be a little bit warped. You can see down on that end. And I do like cutting on the knife blades. I would say you get at least 20% better cutting because of the airflow over cutting on the honeycomb bed. So the advantage is I get a lot better cutting with the knife blades, but you don't have the hold down capabilities that you have with the honeycomb. If this is on a honeycomb, I would just put a bunch of pins on there and boom, we would be nice and flat. But I don't have that luxury with the knife blades right now. So I do something that is a little weird, I guess, but what I do is I just put some weights, if I run into this situation, on one end like that. And then I've got another cutting board over here that I'm going to put down. And then that's going to totally make my board flat here. So I have an even focus across the entire plane. And I'm only cutting in this top region here. So I'm not getting anywhere close to this weight here or that cutting board. So I don't have any chance of hitting it or anything like that. You have to be very careful doing that. You don't want to crash into this stuff, okay? But if I had maybe some smaller circular like disc weights, that would probably be better. I don't have to do this that often, but every once in a while I do get a piece of plywood that's kind of warped like this. So this is how I treat it. You know, just kind of real world stuff. Be very careful if you're doing this. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you're not totally familiar with the machine and how it works, and you know, knowing exactly where you're going to be cutting, because like I said, you could crash doing this. But just showing you what I do, and it works for me. So here's what I'm cutting. This is just 4 sides to a box. So this is basically 2 boxes worth of sides. And I'm going to go ahead and send that over to the laser. And I've set my origin at the top left corner using the control panel here. And we'll just go ahead and press frame. So as you can see, I'm just cutting on like the top about 5 inches of this board. And again, that is because, you know, whenever you're working with sheet goods, especially 5x5 pieces, 3/8 Baltic Birch, it can get a little bendy in some cases. So, you know, as much as I would just love to just throw this in there and fire off, you know, my whole, you know, basically 63 by 41 inches of workspace here, you kind of got to like figure out like, okay, what can I actually cut? Because I want to make sure all my cuts are successful. If I just threw that in there and didn't check this focus to make sure I'm focused across the full 5 feet of the entire sheet, then I could come back here in 20 minutes and find half of my parts don't come out correctly. They either don't cut out or they don't fit right because the, you know, the sizing is different because my beam is too close to the wood or too far away, out of focus, or too far in focus. So, you know, you just run into all sorts of problems. So sometimes it's best just to pick a few parts, run them, move this down, run more. I'm going to run another batch, and I'm going to keep doing this process until I get all my parts cut out of this sheet. And again, I don't have to do this on every sheet, but when they are bowed like this, then it's the best way that I found how to do it. And you know, one other thing as this is cutting out is what I always do first as well is I cut out one part first. Just before I start the day on any of my machines, I cut out one with these, especially when I'm cutting through thick material like this, because I just want to make sure everything's good. I don't want to, again, come back and try to run 5 of these or 4 of these at one time and then come back to find out, you know, 10 minutes later or whatever that, you know, open up the machine and they didn't cut through because I, you know, had a setting wrong. I you know, overlooked something in light burn. I had something unchecked, or I didn't have the air on or something. I watched the first cut very closely and it's done now. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Yeah, so that looks very clean. Now I know I got everything right. I got one little hanger right here. I mean, that's typical. Everything cut super clean, but you know, every time you are working with plywood, you get kind of a maybe a glue pocket or something right here. I'm not going to force that out right now. I can see everything else is just fine. So when I pull this entire sheet off, I'll deal with that and hit it with a knife and get that up. But now I feel comfortable to go ahead and run all of these parts here, at least in this row. I'm going to move my head over to here, and I'm going to set my origin now here, and I'll go back to Lightburn, resend the file with just 3 more of these, and we'll get them going. So the laser's good now. I can step over to the other side of the shop for about 5 or so minutes before I have to change it out. Let me show you what I got going on the CNC here. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this is what those parts basically look like that I'm cutting out right now on the laser. These are side pieces of the box. I have those going currently, and this is a back piece, and this is the front, and on the bottom there we have the bottom panel. So this makes up the various sizes of wine crates that I make. So I'm going to put that over here out of the way, and here's my CNC project that I have going on right now that I'm working on. And what I'm doing is a 3D badge here for a local police department. And I'm just working through my file design right now. I want to make sure everything is coming out good and the way I want it. So I have this carved right now partially in MDF. I have some scrap 1-inch MDF that I have laying around that I use to make my wasteboard slats for the Shapeoko Pro 2x4. And you know, I don't want to waste my good material. Here's my 8-quarter hard maple right here that I need to glue up to make a panel and flatten and all that stuff for the actual final product. But I'm going to first do this in a cheap, inexpensive material that's easy to mill. You know, I'm not going to mess anything up, or if I do mess anything up, I'm going to mess it up on this part. And I'm going to have to go through this a couple times, but this is my first finishing pass here. And I've got some details that I need to get a little bit better in the text here. But I'm very happy with all of these other details here. So I've set up another toolpath. You can see on my computer, this is Carbide Create Pro. And I've came in here and I'm doing another second finishing pass with a little bit higher step over. And I want to get rid of some of that chatter marks, that chattery, you know, stuff I got going on right now. And I have no doubt that I'll be able to figure it out. I just got to play with it a little bit. So I'm going to get this running because this finishing toolpath is going to take like 8 hours or something like that to fully run. So I'm going to get that started now as I've got the laser cutting and everything fixed. I'm going to go ahead and get this running so it can be kind of running in the background as well. Now, the cool thing about this product or this project here is, which I'm planning on making a video for this as well. I've been recording as I'm going, but kind of like a how to, well, maybe not like an exact tutorial, but just kind of my process to go through designing these 3D badges and some of the help that I've gotten along the way just to get to this point. But one of the cool things about this badge is that in this center section here, this is like a crest for the city and different things. And right here is another little pocket that I've created because this is the city hall of the, you know, department here. And it says Garden Grove City Hall right here. I'm going to make these elements out of, well, I'm going to use the UV printer to print full color pieces on acrylic that I'm going to place right here for the crest and right here for the City Hall logo. And you know, the recesses, the pockets for, you know, this text here is all going to be painted, and then the body of the badge here is going to be the raw maple color. So this is going to be kind of like the badge is brass, so this is going to be kind of like the brass color. I'll have painted blue for the text here because that's what's on the badge, and then my full color elements here with the UV printer. So it should look pretty cool in the end. I'm going to keep you posted along with this as it is going, and like I said, I'm going to be creating a longer full length video on this as well. That'll be out sometime in the future. Just got to get through my design process here. Rainy day out here today. This does not happen very often, but we got rain like for about 3 or 4 more days, I think. So what do you think about the rain?
I don't know. Pretty sure I'm gonna hit the camera.
All right, CNC is going behind me. Monport is going in front of me, cutting out my box pieces. I'm gonna go back over to the Bolt Pro that is fixed now. And next we're gonna be engraving this cutting board. This is a cutting board that we gave away as a silent auction item, and the winner is gonna be picking it up tomorrow. So I'm just gonna do like a little monogram design here. Like doing this on the Bolt Pro. Really, the other 2 bolts will do this too. This is only like a 12-inch by, I don't know, it's about 12 inches by 20 inches or something like that. So it will work on the other bolts, but I do just prefer, if I can, to do it in this machine. I like using the 2.5-inch lens. You could swap that, of course, to the other ones as well, but normally we keep the 2.5 in the Bolt Pro. These both have 1.5-inch lenses in them, typically. But I find you get a little bit darker of an engraving with the 2.5-inch lens, and also on the Bolt Pro. So we'll go ahead and get that started, and I'll give you a couple tips along the way as well. So as you can see here, I got my design in Lightburn. I'm using the camera on the bolt to do a rough placement on this. Let's go ahead and get it lined up first, and then we'll talk about the settings. So I'm using absolute coordinates, of course, with the camera here. So you can see here I got it on absolute coordinates. I'm going to select my graphic, I'm going to group that together, and I'm going to go ahead and frame this. So let's see where this lines up on the board here. Okay, that looks like pretty good placement, but I think it's a little bit big. So I'm just going to turn that down. You know, this doesn't have to be anything specific. It's just kind of what I think looks good here. You can also use the rubber band frame right here. And if you press that, that's going to give you like the circle boundary of the frame instead of a square. And I like to do that sometimes also just to kind of get a feel for where this is going to line up. So now that we got our alignment set up, let me show you my settings here. For this, I'm going to be engraving at 400 millimeters a second, 40% power. The big thing is here is, besides line interval, which I'm running at 0.06 millimeters, which is 423 lines per inch. The biggest thing here that I'm doing is I'm using the Z offset feature to drop the bed down 3 millimeters. You know, that's going to put me 3 millimeters out of focus outward. Okay, so it's lowering the bed. And that combined with the 2.5 inch lens is going to increase the spot size on this laser because it is so small since it's a RF tube. I want to widen out that spot a little bit just to like dissipate some of the energy so it's not quite so focused, and then it'll make kind of a lighter, or excuse me, a darker burn typically on most woods, especially walnut, which this one is here. And of course, one last thing, it's always a good idea to go ahead and open up your preview of your file before you run it. And I just like to kind of bring this back to the beginning and go through it. This says it's going to take about 5 minutes. I like to do this because sometimes on accident I'll have maybe fill shapes individually clicked. So when that happens, you know, see how it goes through and it's doing each basically letter separately. And sometimes that can kind of mess with you, because if I'm running at 400 millimeters a second and I'm just doing this little H here and it's very, you know, traveling just a short distance, I may not quite get up to that 400 millimeters a second. You probably will with the bolt, but it's gonna be tough. And I mean, this is only like a 1/2 inch wide here. So, you know, I might be burning a lot hotter there than I would be on, say, this leaf or maybe the H, because the H is a lot wider. So it's always just good to double check. I want to bring that back. I like to fill groups together typically, so that way I'm filling this all at once. And it's always good to play with this too, because, you know, sometimes this method might be faster. And in this case it is. I mean, we're at 347 filling it in this way, but I would just need to make sure I change my settings accordingly. Now in this case, I mean, the difference between 5 minutes and 345 is not that big of a deal. I want to make sure this comes out the way I think it's going to come out, because this is how I normally do all my monograms like this. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is and send this over to the bolt. So far so good. Like that dark engraving. Everything's looking pretty good. Let's let this run. I'll come back in a couple minutes once we get a little further along. And here we are, almost done. This is coming out really great. I like to do this depth. I like to really, you know, 40% power on this is kind of high, but I like to do it like that because I like to get down a couple millimeters at least, just because it gives me room to sand. I still need to finish this board, so I'm going to have to start at 120, probably go to 220 with this, water pop it, hit it one more time, and get some oil on this thing. So I want to make sure I have room for that. So I've cut out, let's see, I've cut out 12 of these so far. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 8, 12, 16. I've cut out 16 of these so far, okay? So I need, let's see, to do 12 boxes, I need 24. So I need to do another couple sets of these, but before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and take this piece out. I'm gonna flip it around, you'll see here in a minute, and then start cutting from this side down here, because since I'm using my pass-through here, I got a little bit too much of an overhang here. I don't like that, so I'm gonna flip it around 180 degrees, and you can see all these look like they cut really good. I'll just be able to pop these right out. And I couldn't count earlier, but I've got 20 of these cut right now, and I need 24, so I just need to do one more row. See, here's my problem child. My first cut there was my one problem. Just got a little bit of that hung up there. Let's see if I can just wiggle this out. Yeah, there we go. Just one little glue pocket there. It happens, but just got to be aware of it. Okay, I think that's going to be pretty much it for today. Got the laser going again, cutting out some more parts. The goal today is to get all of these box parts cut. So I just did the sides right now. I got to do the front and the back, and then the bottom. So without recording, I'll bust right through that. Did our maintenance, of course, on the Bolt Pro and also on the Monport to make sure it's cutting correctly. Played with the router a little bit. I paused it right now just so it's not making a bunch of noise, but you know, continuing to develop that 3D carve I have going on for a customer, and doing some samples with that. So that's going well. Just going to continue to refine that. Let's see, we did our cutting board. I just got to finish that, give that a final sand, water pop, and oil that up for tomorrow. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think for the rest of the day, what I've got planned between today and tomorrow, I do want to record another video. I'm going to go edit this one real quick, throw it together, and get this posted today on Saturday. So in a couple hours, I should have that up by the time you're watching this. But I also want to record a couple screen recordings for the Reno, the Monport Reno, again for my beginner series. So I've got a video planned where I'm going to be going over some basic light burn design, and I'll be creating a few custom Christmas ornaments since we're getting to that time of year here. And it's not really about the ornaments per se, it's about the skills, the beginner skills that are involved in doing something like that. So I believe I'm gonna go ahead and get that going, because I want to have that done tomorrow and maybe post it on Monday, something like that. I want to try to use this Monport Reno here more often. It's a great little beginner laser, and probably, I mean, it's the best that I've ever used as far as a beginner machine, and for the price, very great machine. You know, very basic, 12 by 18 work, or 12 by 16 inch work area, so it's not massive, but as you can see here, you know, it fits right here on a desktop basically, and really does so much in such a small package. So if you're looking for a first beginner entry-level CO2 laser, I think this is a really good choice. And they actually have a new model out now called the Vision. This is the Pro, the 45 watt Reno 45 Pro, and I like this one because it runs perfectly with Lightburn. But they have a new one, the Pro Vision, has a built-in camera if you're into that, which is helpful in certain situations. But this one, I'm just running without the camera, and really like it. So I'm going to be using that more in my beginner series videos. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate you helping me out in the shop today and joining along. Again, if you like this type of freeform content, let me know in the comments. You know, it's something that I enjoy doing, and I think people get something out of it, even though it's just kind of, you know, we're just kind of messing around out here, and it's not scripted. It's not, you know, really planned out as far as the video is. I'm just kind of bringing you along with what I'm doing in the shop, and whatever that may be is what these videos are going to be about. And sprinkled in there are going to be tips and tricks just as they come to my mind, stuff that I do all the time and that I want to share with you. So I hope that is helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and look out for my new beginner series coming out and other videos, and I will see you later.